Hey everybody, how's it going? Good morning. Hope you had a good weekend. Morning. We sound good. All right. We are on Monday here, so it is Streamcast Day. Um, Hope you enjoyed the past couple of episodes. Today is going to be UFOs, aliens, conspiracies, that kind of thing. I'm gonna have Wicked Tricks and Rascal with me again today. They've compiled some cool stories. I'll be learning a lot of stuff right along with you guys. So this should be quite fun, quite unique for me, anyway. So let's go ahead and jump back in. All right, guys, we are up and running. So
Hello?
I've already clued them in on to who's here. Excited to see the streamcast usuals. Um, but today's topic is UFOs, aliens, conspiracies, stuff like that. So yeah, I've always been intrigued by the idea of unidentified flying objects and aliens. Um, I think it would be ridiculous to assume we're the only intelligent life uh, in the universe. Um, Whether or not they're stealing rednecks in the night and anally probing them, I don't know. But there's some interesting thoughts and theories. Um, and I've kind of just gotten into them, just being a curious person and liking the paranormal and stuff that's outside of the normal. Um, but I'm not as deep into it as some people. I definitely don't know as much about it as you guys seem to. So how did you guys get into aliens and UFOs and that kind of thing? We'll start with you, Wicked.
I guess I got into it when I was probably, I want to say 10 or 11 years old. I had an experience in Cub Scouts that kind of piqued my interest. Um, and then I started, researching it, following it, talking to other people about it. So been doing it for a minute.
How about you, Rascal?
Really hard to put I guess uh, an exact date on it. Again, my dad was really into this stuff. So from at the very least a very young age, like I think there was something always on TV or other, you know, materials and stuff like that that always kind of like piqued my interest about it. And I kind of lost touch with it probably in my teenage years because I was too busy, playing, well, I was doing at that time. It's all a blur. I'm losing time. Anyway, and then I got into my 20s and stuff like that, and was like, oh, okay. Kind of rediscovered that, and more information was available on the internet as it expanded, and started reading about some of the ideas and the theories behind spacecraft and things like that, and how to go about building one, and the type of civilizations it would take, to do it, and which is all really interesting to me.
Nice. So I guess we should just kind of jump in the deep end of the UFO thing. So I guess it's not too deep because if I can think of it, it's pretty shallow on this topic. But one of the things I wanted to touch on in anything when I think of alien life or at least life alien to us, I always think back to what if they've already come. I'm sure you guys have all heard theories of we were able to engineer such things as the pyramids and what have you because of extraterrestrial influence and I think it's entirely possible that they've affected that they could be something that affected our technological advancement in ancient times, and hell, even in modern times. Looking at you, Elon Musk. Um, what do you guys think of that idea of the ancient aliens? Kind of, they came before and they gave us a boost, and they've faded away or they died off. That kind of thing. Where do you guys land on that? Kafka says they died in Antarctica. Nice.
I have a really deep view on what people call aliens. I've read a lot of books. One particular author is Zachariah Sitchin. He's wrote a lot, like the fiery chariots and stuff. He looks back in history at all the events that would to modern man look like a UFO encounter, right?
Uh,
Uh, fire chariots in the sky, wheeled machines, the Native American or not Native American, but the Indian books that are like, you know, 8, 9, 10,000 years old. They talk about manas and different things in the sky and different sky battles, and you got to do your research. But the conclusion I come to after all of that reading and stuff is I think that they're just, and this is kind of out there for some people, but I don't really think that they're aliens in the sense that they're a whole lot different from us. They're aliens in the sense that if they have came here, if they have visited, or if they've been here in the past, they're just a different kind of star child. He talks about how everything comes from the sun, everything's made out of carbon, and nature's pretty consistent on Earth when it comes to life forms. And he talks along the lines that throughout the universe that us, aka star children, right,
uh,
in one form or another are throughout the universe. That's
I
kind of where my head's at on the whole view of what aliens are.
dig it. I dig it. Kafka says even the Bible talks about all that stuff, and Zozo Crazy Girl says that all they got to say is they don't believe in aliens.
Yes, she does not. I will convince her eventually.
I've always thought there's maybe some credence to angels, or what we would call as gods and what have you, or just visitations from either another dimension or another planet. A distinct possibility. What do you think, Rascal, on the topic so far?
Well, I think a lot. There's I don't know. There's some ways of thinking it. It's funny that you bring up the Bible because I think I had mentioned my conversation with my buddy who's been rereading the Old Testament and stuff like that. And there's some interesting stuff in there, and also a lot of the artwork that you see is very interesting, and some of the stories as well. I actually ran across one recently about from the Viking Age, where it was the long ship in the sky, effectively
Uh-huh.
is how they described it, um, which is like a reoccurring theme across multiple civilizations and cultures, sort of.
Right.
Like the chariot in the sky, then it's like the ship in the sky, literally a boat, and it's like how would you describe that? I guess, um, you know, from their perspective, you kind of got to think about like, okay, all right, that does make sense, right?
Right.
You know, um,
They were making
what
sense
if
of
you,
what they were seeing.
right? Yeah, putting it all together. As far as like some of the other things that have happened, uh, like it's actually known that uh a lot of those abductions that happened back in like the 1950s to like 70s and stuff like that, that was actually a cover for the MK Ultra program, which is a whole other thing. Uh, and where you dose people with massive amounts of drugs, and the original intent of it was basically to get people to trip out and to interrogate them under eh, different situations and stuff like that.
Right.
So that happened. Like that happened like 100%, so there's a lot to do with that as well. Uh yeah, lots of crazy stuff. Um and then you've got your stuff like the Great Filter, the Fermi Paradox, why don't we see more of this? Uh the Kardashev Scale, all that stuff too as well.
Right. Kafka says in all caps, I don't care what they say. There's one of them there damn portals at Skinwalker Ranch. All those quack doctors may say I have dementia, but I know what I seen. I think he's being funny, but also funny to mention Skinwalker Ranch already.
Mm.
Place is crazy.
Zozo Crazy Girl says, okay, I'll believe in aliens if I see one. It's always an interesting response from people. They'll say, I'll believe it if I see it. But there's other things that they just take on faith. Why is one different than the other?
Right. Well, there's a large portion of the planet that believes in magic sky, buddy. You
Flying
know,
spaghetti monster?
sure, people believe a lot of
I
weird,
believe in bacon. I've seen
to,
bacon.
yeah, to this day, it's like, think of how many old wives' tales people still think are true, you know?
Right.
Like, no, grandma said so. It must be true.
Obviously true. I am a scientist in every regard except for that thing my grandma said that I'll take on faith.
Right. Yeah. And, I was having a conversation with uh, one of my friends about how some cultures like have medical science, right?
Mm-hmm.
And um, when I was in college, I was around a lot of there's a pretty healthy nursing program here, and people come from abroad to study here, things like that, and they would have to write papers. And I remember a lady. I'm like 99% positive. She was from I can't remember what province in China. Um, but she decided that she wanted to write a paper, and so she was trying to gather information on this, and so she went to like a study group at the library and talked to some of the instructors and professors. And the paper was supposed to be on the benefits of traditional medicine and when I say traditional medicine, I mean like traditional Chinese medicine,
Mm-hmm.
uh, versus like Western clinical, medicine.
So are we talking like
And
tiger balls and glands, that kind of thing?
yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I didn't want to say that. Yeah, tiger penis. Make you strong.
Well, I mean,
Or
they're not the
whatever.
only ones that use pieces of animals like that. That was just the one that
Right?
I
No,
know to
absolutely
be
not. It's
theirs.
just yeah, absolutely. And you know, but she was surprised that she couldn't find any data on that and like the positives and stuff like that. And the professors were like, yeah, well, trying to very like subtly bring it to her, like, yeah, it's because this doesn't work really. There's no research to back it up, and that's why this is scientific based medicine, and et cetera, et cetera. But even in multiple cultures across the globe still believe that stuff, with no evidence to back it up. So, it's kind of weird. That's a really weird paradox
Yeah,
that
that's
people
exactly
have.
what it is. Exactly what it is, a paradox. So, we're doing today a little more freestyle chat than we usually do. So we're kind of going to be bouncing back and forth around some stuff. But since it was brought up and we are talking about it earlier, um, what what is the deal with Skinwalker Ranch? Why is it important? What goes on there?
What doesn't?
There's actually a new show about it that's been pretty interesting. Like it's televised, so there's acting involved, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. Like reality TV is not reality, right?
Right.
Like
Except for,
almost like a docu series.
except for swamp
But
people, the show's the bomb.
right, except for when you watch the show, you see that certain people are involved. The guy that actually owns the ranch currently is there. That guy is like, if you do any kind of research on that dude, he is straight up like a million, like pretty fucking rich, right?
Yeah.
And he has a reputation. He owns businesses and stuff like that. And for him to come right out and say some of the shit and go along with some of the shit that's going on, I get the entertainment value of it, and that can play into it. But he's basically putting his business reputation on the line.
Right.
Like he's not fucking around. So I think, some of the stuff that they've had on the show is on that particular, the newest show about Skinwalker Ranch is very interesting. There's some pretty scientific methods being used. It's not like, oh, there's light in the sky, it's an alien, right? It's not
Right.
that. They have scientific instruments. They've been measuring radiation, EMFs. They've been measuring seismic events. They've been using sonar, all kinds of different types of like scientific instruments to try to figure out what's going on.
Right. And what
Yeah,
is?
it's.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, what is going on?
In history, it stems back to an event between the Ute Indians and another tribe of Native Americans, and they cursed them because they enslaved them and stuff. Like you have to actually read the actual history, but the stigma attached to the land of the Ute Basin is based on a Native American curse, and then the Skinwalker is like like a shaman, like a shapeshifter. Um, I don't want to say evil, although a lot of people associate it with evil. But there's this gray area between something that's protecting something is not necessarily evil, but can be perceived as bad to whatever it's protecting itself against, right?
Yeah, regardless of its alignment, it's still dangerous.
Right. Dangerous doesn't necessarily mean evil, right?
Right. Right.
A bear is dangerous. That doesn't make a bear evil.
Fuck no, they're not evil.
um, but that's good, and that explains some of the paranormal stuff that, or gives credence to some of the paranormal stuff that happens there. But then on top of all of that, there's a whole bunch of government involvement in different um, atomic fields, different things that were above the Ute Basin up there that were, it's like protected land, like you can't go there.
Gotcha.
There seems to be a lot of like abnormal radiation, a lot of radiation coming from, you think radiation coming from the earth, right?
Right.
Well, they've tested in the show, they've tested with different drones and airborne, like, air balloon for like weather and stuff, that there's a high amount of radiation above the area, like in the air. Um, and it's not like your typical nuclear radiation, it's like radiation. I forget the exact term they used. But, there's so many different things that are going on in this area. It's hard to pin it down to one thing. You have the the skinwalkers themselves, like the beings that people see, which range from huge wolves to shadow figures to ghosts. Like it's all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have sightings of lights. Like I don't know if there's any documented accounts of people seeing spaceships, but there's hundreds of accounts of people seeing lights strobes of lights, weird lightning like ball lightning and stuff like that there too. So, I
Right.
mean, it's all over the board and it's a
Well,
highly active area and it's been that way since the middle or early 1800s.
electromagnetic radiation can really cause some crazy shit in the world and in people's perception of it. So that's really interesting. I would love to figure out what is causing that disturbance, like scientifically. That's really cool.
And the guys on the show, they're really trying to narrow down the source so they can study it.
Right.
But whenever they get close to the source, it dissipates. It's really weird.
So like a shifting source. Hmm. That makes me think interdimensional phenomenon. That's what that makes me think.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's like a working theory out there that Skinwalker Ranch is one of those places where the air quote veil is thin
Mm-hmm.
uh to possibly like a parallel universe or something like that, and allows things to cross over more easily, and that dependent upon our positioning within space, because we're moving through space, and I
Right.
don't just mean like orbiting the sun, it's all moving, right?
Right.
um we just really can't perceive that down here on the ground, you know. And at certain intervals there's, times where that's going to move around, shift and change, and allow stuff to come through, and from a scientific standpoint, when you think about this, right? What do you think? You could just launch a satellite into space whenever you want? No. You think you can launch a mission to Mars whenever you want? Like they don't just spin the a big dial for a calendar and then put their finger on a date and go, oh, yeah, June the 8th sounds good. Let's go then.
I don't
No,
have anything
there's
going
a
on that day. That works.
yeah, sure, shoot them up there. No, there's a lot that goes into this, right? Um, and like a lot of math has to go in. There's open windows, launch windows to go to certain places and to position things a certain way. Um, you couple that with just the standard math of the rotation of the Earth and the position, overall, with the fact that we've got a giant floating garbage heap up there right now, and the government and multiple agencies across the world have to track a bunch of space junk. That complicates things even further.
Right.
There are actually pockets of space junk that are in certain areas that you don't want to be shooting stuff through that, um, because if you've ever looked at like the outer armor, not armor, I guess, but the outer plating of some satellites that have been struck by, I saw one at uh, the Aeronautical Museum in LA. I believe that was hit by like something that was like I think it was like a grain of sand or something like that. That and it's you would think that it was shot point blank like a shotgun slug or something like that.
Wow.
Because that single grain of sand was moving so fast, you know. So there's a lot that goes into this. So if you could imagine, you were in kind of a a parallel universe or something like that, and you wanted to come over and check out, you know, someone else's um universe, uh it might stand to reason that it's the same thing. There's windows that are available for you to come through every once in a while, is what I think
Yeah.
personally.
That makes sense. Makes sense. I feel like I'm gonna need to dive into the phenomenon there at Skinwalker Ranch and see how it how it overlaps with some of my other areas of interest. Because parallel dimensions and what have you are something that's always intrigued me. Um, and I've heard a lot of stories, but I think I want to start digging into the science of it as much as I can comprehend. Because to my
It
knowledge,
terrifies.
yeah. To my knowledge, it's not something that's just been disproven or anything. It's just something that keeps there's keeps being more questions and not any definitive answers one way or another. And I find that to be incredibly interesting.
Yeah. Whenever I think of the parallel universe thing, I always flashback to like Lovecraftian storytelling and stuff like that. And so for that reason alone, like it makes me very, very nervous, you know. Uh especially I don't know if Exarch, have you ever played the Masks of Nyarlathotep?
No, I
Uh
haven't.
no, you haven't.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Well, um to kind of go along with this, you eventually find a place that's extremely ancient that like shouldn't be there, that's like subterranean and underground, that was built by this ancient alien civilization, and
mm-hmm.
and they actually ended up having to leave, but it wasn't before they were able to trap. Basically, they were conducting experiments, and unfortunately for them, they bridged the gap to a parallel universe, and some a race of beings comes through that should not exist in our universe at all, and it's utterly mind-bending and kind of horrifying what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's it. That alien civilization has to, like, basically, they can't beat these things. They have to leave. They have to go, "Yep, see you later. We can trap them and we can stop them from getting out, but we can't beat them, so we gotta go." And they leave. And that explains their absence. But yeah, that was a case of like an advanced civilization messing with stuff that they really didn't, understand. And you can imagine if you were that, there's great risk that comes with kind of making your presence known out in the universe.
Right.
Um, because Stephen Hawking said, "I'm not so sure it's a great idea to fire a probe out there and, like, say, 'Hi, here we are.'" Um, because generally speaking, when one civilized because any civilization capable of contacting you back in any kind of timely fashion, there's a good shot that they're more advanced than you. And unfortunately, civilizations that when there's a power disparity between the two, it doesn't go well for the one that's underpowered. Um, and I would imagine that if you found a parallel universe that was stable and stuff like that, that's a pretty interesting resource. And this kind of bridges into like the Fermi paradox and stuff like that, because and also like self-replicating probe technology and a lot of stuff that was fueled by like John von Neumann, and stuff like that. It's actually, they're literally referred to as von Neumann probes. And
Mm-hmm.
that is basically the fact that if there were von Neumann probes, we should be seeing them all throughout the galaxy at this point, based on self-replication. There's other reasons why this may not be, but if these things are coming, if there's a civilization that's coming through like in a parallel universe, from a parallel universe to ours, that would kind of explain why there are no von Neumann probes out there, and we're not seeing them, because what do they really need to do? At this point, if these guys are engaged in the exploration of parallel universes, they obviously have a probably very high technological grasp of of their own universe. So they're like almost kind of above the whole energy physical based resources at this point. And so that's kind of one of my, I guess, theories that I've got going right now.
Gotcha. The dangers of letting ourselves be known to possibly more advanced entities, if you will. I definitely get the concern there, but I also think that reaction, civilization that's more advanced overtaking other civilizations, that could be a very human thing. It's just as likely that there's an advanced civilization out there that is beyond such things or thinks differently. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
yeah.
do we gamble on that? That's a hard question, because what we know is how humans are. So
Right.
if they're similar to us, then yeah, we got something to worry about.
Right. That's our basis. That's our baseline for intelligent, air quotes again, intelligent thinking.
Right.
Right.
Uh, rock go thud, bomb go boom,
Right.
sort of deal. Like, one of our best ideas, by the way, for like a ship, if we ever had to get off Earth in a hurry, like our best idea for a mothership is to build this big old cylindrical ship and then, explode a nuclear bomb behind us for propulsion.
Right.
That's pretty orky,
Yeah.
It's very Warhammer 40K
Zug
orc.
zug.
Yeah,
Zug,
like,
zug.
like
Zug
like
zug.
we're like literally, oh, we're slowing, we're losing momentum again. again. Oh, let off another nuke. Like, what do you think about like that? You're like, oh my god, only humans.
Another
Well done.
interesting question we have to ask about that, advertisement, as we're saying, right?
Mhm.
Is does Earth really have anything worth them coming to get? Because when I was growing up as a kid in school, and the way I was taught about space was this empty, vast void of nothing, right? And there's occasionally a planet here and there, and some asteroids here and there. But in reality, current science dictates that the universe is full of water, is full of ice. Basically, the materials for life are basically just fucking everywhere in the universe. So Earth is, we like to think that it's rare, but in reality, not so much.
Right.
So is there something here that would make them want to make the effort to come visit us? You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Real quick first, chat is bumping right now, so awesome chat. Thanks for hanging out with us. Sir Memes a lot says 9/11 was an inside job. Hand sandwiches are just turkey that got left out, and pepperoni is just ham nipples. Interesting positions. The Earth is a hexagon. Um, interesting points. Job.
Yes.
Labor.
A man of culture.
Yes, absolutely. A man of science and culture. I love it. It's been a while, man. Polyhedral. It's a good resource that's being suggested is maybe labor. That could be a good resource to be found on Earth. Certain elements might be not as common in other places that they happen to be here. But it's not as, like, we always thought it would be something like water or oxygen or something like that, but it would be more likely something else. I think labor's a good one.
Well, there's also, for those that aren't, familiar, with the Kardashev scale. This is basically a 3-tiered scale, for the beginnings of spacefaring civilizations. And basically, one is you have displayed like total mastery over the energy gathering and natural resources of your planet. Phase 2 is you're displaying total mastery over your solar system. And type 3 is a full-blown galactic civilization. That's a full-blown galactic empire, basically. You control the energy at the scale of the galaxy, is what it is. Now, to put this in perspective, there's a little bit of debate on where we're at on the Kardashev scale. I can assure you we are obviously not at 2. Um, the debate is whether or not we are even at 1.
Yeah.
And the overwhelming consensus is we are not even close. We are anywhere from like a 0.3, I believe, to possibly 0.5. That's it. We're not even close.
Chat wants to know what the scale was again. What was it called?
The Kardashev scale.
It's mastery over the energies and what have you of
Yep.
the planet, the solar system, and then the galaxy.
Right. Yep.
So basically, means a lot. We haven't even fully harnessed or understood our technological advancement, harnessing of energy. At a global scale.
Yeah, here's an example. We don't even know it's on the bottom of the ocean of our own fucking planet, right?
And we're still stuck on fossil fuels.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're behind the curve. So
so like the other thing to remember is that the leap from 1 to 2 is big, real big. The leap from 2 to 3, not as big as you might think, because at 2 you are probably you have like probably constructed a Dyson sphere at that point, or are getting close to constructing something similar to, or you now know that you could do it, but you probably don't want to.
you have to
Because
tell them
obviously,
what a Dyson sphere is.
Is
Most
this the
people don't
shield
know what
around
that
the
is.
sun?
Yeah, effectively, yeah. It would be. It
It's
would be
harnessing
yeah,
the sun, basically.
yeah, a mega structure, harnessing the energy potential of a star. Yeah.
Now, I've heard people saying that possible Dyson spheres have been observed, and it caught my attention, but I didn't read more into that.
Recently, recently that was
recently.
there was a star that is flickering intermittently. And generally speaking, when a star is dying or powering down, they pulse, and they pulse actually pretty steadily. And this is a question now of whether we have to rethink how a star goes extinct or dies, or if something else going on. And one of the possible things that was floated around is if you're a alien race, and you're building one of these. This is not a superstructure. This is a mega structure. You know, so you can imagine there's large pieces of paneling and stuff like that that have to be put into place, and that these flickers are things being moved into place around this star.
Thank you for the host, man.
That's one of the theories.
That's I can't even imagine the
scale.
Yeah, like it's mind blowing, but very, very cool.
Literally planets worth of material, not just a planet's resources, right? We're talking mining asteroids for hundreds of years kind of deal. Like, it's way out there. And one of the problems with that scale, like looking on it, like from the outside, is the fact that that's our view of what technology is. Like, our grasp of technology is based on physics and what we know of physics, and physics changes every day. Every day.
What I would think would make that
crazy.
more manageable is if they had a way to replicate resources.
I
To
mean, yeah,
turn,
definitely
yeah,
on the table. It's
yeah,
like when you're talking earlier about, people or a species coming to Earth for labor. Well, you would think if they were that evolved that they would have mechanical labor that would far exceed our capabilities.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well, this goes back to Fermi paradox and the von Neumann probe. And effectively what it is there's different types of von Neumann probes that have been, kind of floated out there from like general probes that are tasked with missions. And what these are is at the very basic level, they are able to go out and find materials, mine materials to self-replicate, to continue the mission. So if they break, they can rebuild themselves, right? Berserkers, which were mentioned in a novel, I can't quite remember which one. That's literally like war against the machine stuff. Like that is like an aggressive like civilization that's like we want resources and we are willing to kill intelligent biological life that could threaten our supremacy, and that's it. And then there's also the idea of cedar ships as well that go out and are carrying biological material and are looking for suitable planets everywhere, with the right conditions and stuff to support life, and to go out there and basically, kind of like a petri dish it, right, and prepare that planet for, physical inhabitation by the producing race. But so you can imagine, like with a von Neumann probe that's self-replicating, if its mission is to build stuff or harvest stuff, you can send these things out and they can multiply and replicate. And this is one of the arguments of why, like, we there people still, many scientists still think that we're alone, because at the rate that they would replicate, we should be seeing them everywhere. And if you've got that tech level, a Dyson sphere really shouldn't be that big of a deal, overall. So you would just be using AI to do a lot of the work for you at this point, not physical, organic labor, per se.
Here's a thought. So we know that we should be wary of advertising ourselves. What if there's another civilization that is more advanced than us that has technology to like make these probes and this replication, but they also are of the mind that they shouldn't advertise themselves. So they have built into these things a way to obfuscate them from our observation.
It is well, the problem is at that point then okay, galactic travel is one thing, right? Traveling within our own galaxy is as far as we are ever going to go. Um, Ever. And the idea that such a civilization at that tech level would feel threatened within the borders of its own galaxy is that's a bridge too far for me to have to, potential galactic civilizations inside, the Milky Way. We would be talking about full blown interstellar. Well, no, I think it'd be outer stellar. I don't know.
It'd be outer stellar.
But it would be like that would be universal levels of travel at that point. Now, there's some very interesting oddities that happen in the universe, right? Um, I'm sure you guys have seen this where there's massive black spots in parts of the universe where there's just apparently nothing,
Right.
you know. And I mean they are huge. Like if you were on the edge of one of these things, if you were a solar system or a galaxy on the edge of one of these things looking off into space, you'd be like, wow, it would just be a void. you know. Um, but the way that we perceive stuff, the ways that we're able to measure things is again based on our current tech level. And it's not to say that there are several of these gaps. So if there were or these voids in space itself, it is there is a possibility that, maybe these are like emerging, massive civilizations and stuff like that. But it also the problem that I have is that when's enough enough, you know?
Right.
And this is like where we get a little dark, right? With the von Neumann probes and stuff like that, and artificial intelligence in general, is there's always a risk of it going rogue. Um, where it's programmed for a purpose, it starts malfunctioning or something like that, and it basically just goes haywire and is ever expanding. That's a risk too you have to be, considerate of when developing this kind of technology.
Or they go Mass Effect
Now,
Reapers on us.
yeah, yeah, something like that. But that's even, at least they had a reason, which was
Gotcha.
basically just population control of the galaxy. And I was kind of sitting there the other night, really thinking about this, and talking about, well, why haven't we seen this? Why haven't we seen that? And then we're seeing, you know, uh, footage is getting released and stuff like that about this, of these UFOs. And again, not everything that is a UFO is an alien spacecraft.
Right.
You know, it just means it's an unidentified flying object. That's it. Um,
Literally
you
the
see a drone
definition of
flying in
UFO.
this. Yeah, you see a drone flying in the sky. That's technically a UFO. You don't know what that is, what model it is, who made it, etc. Blah blah blah. Right.
Right.
Um, there I have an idea, and it's kind of sad. And I had mentioned to you that this was going to be kind of sad.
Hmm.
There's a good shot. You can imagine that space is very vast, right? So it takes a lot of time to travel theoretically between places. And we know that we're basically looking at old broadcasts of things in space, right?
Right.
We're seeing snaps in history, right? Because we can be seeing the light from stars that are just gone. And there is a possibility that a civilization that creates Neumann probes um,
Has already come and gone.
has already come and gone. But what's left behind are their artificial intelligence based um, technology, right?
Uh,
And this kind of answers the question for why they haven't made contact with us. And it could be that it is an advanced AI and stuff like that that's here or around us and has visited us and continues to do so in our solar system or in our region of space itself. But the fact of the matter is it may have it may just be following subroutine and tasks and was only okayed to go to a certain level, and that's it. And it's stuck in a now it's self-replicating. They can build new ones when they become damaged or what have you.
hmm.
Um, but that's as far as it's ever going to go. It's stuck in an ever. It's just they're stuck in a loop.
Right.
That's it. Like, okay, we're gonna release 5 von Neumann probes, and the set number is 5. There should only be 5 of these things. I'm not saying that that's how many there are, but just as an example.
Right.
And they get to their destination, or they stop on their way to their destination, and one gets damaged. They build another one. They continue on, and it's always 5 as the set number, and that's a control. to stop from this massive outbreak of self-replicating, drones and stuff like that.
Right.
To keep them consuming all the resources as they would move towards their target. Um, and yeah, there's a possibility that those things are sending some sort of signal back to their civilization of origin, right?
Right.
And the sad part is they're probably going like, "Hey, great planet here, totally habitable. It's got some weird looking monkeys on it, but no big deal." Um, and the other it's a disconnect tone on the other end of the line
Right.
because that it's been so much time that civilization has collapsed due to infighting, ecology. They did
Supernova,
yes,
Yeah, maybe they're
anything.
escaping apocalypse of some sort.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe they already bailed and they've lost
COVID
contact.
19.
I
yeah.
mean, the possibilities, the great filter got them,
Yep.
you know, uh, and that's it. So, that's one interesting, um, that's one theory that I've kind of got going right now.
And it's just as likely as some of the other more compelling theories. So, like, man, that could just be how it is, and that's it's sad, but
It, yeah,
there's a beauty to
yeah,
it too. That's weird. Like, I find weird beauty in things. Like, I don't know.
yeah. And the fact of the matter is that you know, short of us getting one of these crafts or what have you, like Bob Lazar, sure people are familiar with Bob Lazar. He would describe the structures inside the spacecraft as being welded and more likely that they were 3D printed, right, and layered. Um, because that's kind of a method of self-replicating technology that we're playing with right now is 3D printing.
Right.
Uh, in development of these probes, which is very very interesting when you look at it like that. And we think of 3D printing as taking XYZ material then transferring it. It'd be very interesting if like such an advanced civilization had a way of going out and mining certain elements out in an asteroid belt and was able to convert them to the elements that they needed by some means of I don't know, treating it to some like
Transmutation.
some sort of a power source. Yeah, I don't know. Um, but just to create the metal or needed, to repair stuff. Uh, that's another theory, you know. But yeah, so short of that, that might be the only gifts that we get. Right? Is basically some extinct civilizations, old drones. There's nothing organic about them. No alien that you could put in a room and have a conversation with, theoretically, you know?
But along
Right.
that same lines of discussion, they could have found a way to make, synthetic life. Like,
The
but they're
Yep,
being into a
right.
system where they don't expire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right,
That's
or
also a possibility.
yeah, that's something else that I was gonna bring up too, is that that is totally possible, you know? It could be that, like with what Elon Musk is doing with, like, Neuralink and stuff like that, and where that's kinda going in the long run, is the possible ability to basically back up one's consciousness, right? And then as technology advances, possibly clone, a body and re-download your consciousness and memories, into that body. And he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he said, Joe Rogan was like, "Yeah, but you wouldn't be the same." And well, Elon Musk brings up something very interesting. He goes, "You're not the same when you wake up every day. You're a little different." And when you think about it like that, so there could be that they have some sort of technology at that level where they are able to even reproduce their organic form.
See,
You know,
that gets into the idea of are you a consciousness, a series of information and experiences, or are you a soul? And if so, what is a soul, and can that be transferred? Like that's a huge can of worms.
well, there are some scientists that believe, um, and theologians that believe that humanity's ultimate goal is to reach effective immortality. Of course, we know nothing lives forever, but if you've got access to that technology, you kind of are, you know, you know, that's it. For as long as the power source, around you lasts, and I think that we're gonna get. The funny thing is, I think we're gonna get to that level of tech before we get to outside the solar system.
I think you're right.
Uh, we, I think that we will have total, and I think that this is the beginning of the mastery, is displaying mastery over our own physical form and consciousness.
I think so. We just got to get past some shit to be able to focus on it.
Well, that filter, they say, gets thinner and thinner, finer and finer.
This is some compelling stuff, guys. Okay, so if we walk down the theory that perhaps this advanced civilization has already come and gone,
Hmm.
then what are some of these experiences people are having where they're abducted or interact with quote unquote aliens? How like are they
Right.
making it
Well,
up, or what's going on?
again, we go back to like the MK Ultra program and stuff like that. And there's been a steady drop off alien abduction stories since like the 50s and 70s. Uh, so that could be one thing. The other thing is the the AI probe angle. Um, you can send out several probes that have different missions, and one of those missions can be to study organic, life form.
Mhm.
And when, you know, the way an AI thinks and stuff like that, when they, discover one anomaly, or again, I discuss with you, there are these areas of science that grow stagnant for long periods of time because no one is interested in, or quite frankly, there aren't enough people interested in those specific areas.
So they don't get pursued.
And, right, they don't get pursued, or it takes time to pursue
Yeah.
that certain thread within that specific field of science or
Right.
study. And one of these there was such a gentleman that was like, that was, uh, he studied mosses, around, I want to say, the Victorian period. And to this day, this guy was like, we know as much about moss as we do because of this one guy spent 40 years studying moss, right?
Right.
In fact, this guy was so prolific at collecting mosses, he, I believe, paused or came close to causing the extinction of one particular moss.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, in his area. But you think about that, who wants to do that? Who wants to study the moss? You know? So it's free. So that's a case of, like, a freedom of choice, right?
Right.
When it's an AI or something like that, they're going to go down a list and that needs criteria to be met, you know. And the other theory is that, with the drop offs in, um, abduction, right, has to do with, maybe they just kind of know everything about us at this point and are just waiting. Like, are you guys going to do something interesting soon? You know,
That
like
makes some
like
sense.
you would look like for big changes to happen within a planetary civilization and go, aha, they've made a great leap forward. Why? Let's grab someone, figure out if anything biologically has changed, and start the process over. But
Makes
they might
sense.
not just be interested in us. They could be interested in other life forms or how this planet works, etc.
Or just
We don't know.
interested in evolution, period.
Right. Yeah.
Zerpy says, I think the real thing we should know is why is it when I microwave a Hot Pocket for the correct time, it's still cold in the center? Good question.
Does your microwave have a reheat casserole setting? And if it does, use that.
Right. Kentron01 says, what about time? Our concept of time is different than what it is to other things. Time's an interesting concept because while, yes, we put a name to time and started like trying to understand it on our own terms, I think the progress, the motion of existence is just there. It's a thing that's already there. So we didn't make it up. We're just trying to understand it. If they understand it differently, we'd still have to filter it through our understanding to make sense of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real. And also a lot of discussions that we're having, again, this is like big brain, big picture shit, is we think of alien races on our terms. Like we think of technology as we know it, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of comprehension above what we can understand or even grasp or even realize as a species.
Right.
Like they could alien race. I hate using the term alien races, but there could be a lot of shit going on that we can't even comprehend, like not even ballpark comprehend.
Right.
Yeah,
Which
I'm. Yeah.
it's a rabbit hole because then you're like, well, you're talking about stuff that we can't, you know, discuss, right? Because if you don't understand or comprehend
Yeah.
it, you can't have a discussion about it. But like one of the big points I want to bring up is we think of time, space travel as a distance, like going from point A to point B, and I'm pretty sure that's not how space travel works in reality. I
Not
think it's
efficiently,
more of
anyway.
right. I think it's more of the Einstein theory of, wormhole, black hole, bending time or slipping through a dimension kind of thing. Like it's going to be something much more efficient than getting on a rocket ship and going to another
Well,
universe. Just not realistic.
An engineer friend of mine was saying what they're working on, what some engineers are working on, is the idea of like you got a piece of paper, and those looking at the stream can see what I'm talking about. You are over here, your destination is over here, and instead of you trying to cross that distance via analog, so to speak, the engines are working on really just bending the space so that you are now adjacent to your destination, and when it flattens back out, you're now over here.
right.
That's a way more efficient way of crossing that void.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, well, go out and find me the spice melange.
Right.
Uh,
Oh no, the Dune
you
drinking
know,
game.
yeah, that's the spice melange. Uh, it's true, but the other thing, like, with back to Bob Lazar story and the spacecraft that he supposedly worked on, um, or worked with, what have you, and the element that powered the technology was a specific element. Um, I want to say they called it like compound or element 13 or something like that, or 12. Uh, the
Google
the
knows. Let
big
me
thing
check it out.
is is that there's not that much drag in space that we know of. Not like our atmosphere, you know. So if you have the power source to continuously propel yourself and accelerate through space, that distance is not so much a thing if you can you ramp your acceleration up exponentially. It's not that big a deal.
I'm seeing element 115.
There we go. Element 115. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and adding, he was talking about adding like a certain amount of atoms to it because it caused it to become unstable, and it's like this huge energy force. Like,
Yeah, it's 113, 115, 117, and 118.
yeah, 118 is the one I thought about, but
yeah, combining them. That's some crazy shit in a cool way. Crazy in a cool way. You
right,
guys will,
and
yeah.
Yeah, and based off of the molecules or the atoms that you move and alter the structure of the compound or the element, it reacts differently and does different things. Is what's supposedly really interesting about it in theory. You know, you can if you move a couple atoms here or there, you can have a very violent energy output spike, and then you can also have it be very stable and stuff like that, and a steady power output, which is really what you the reason why we like petrochemicals is the carbon chain. If you talk to any chemist, about petrol base and stuff like that, it's the carbon chains involved in it are in like there's a bunch of them, and they can be manipulated into so many different ways. And it's possible that whatever this stuff is effectively it could be like the gas of space travel effectively.
The fuel that
Oh,
required.
it's very abundant. It's everywhere. You can zap it from any local sun, that kind of deal.
Zap it from, a celestial body. No big deal, guys. Easy
be right back.
peasy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So, the way. Okay, so I can be comfortable accepting the idea that there's already been an advanced civilization that came and gone, and that we're perhaps witnessing their leftovers, these probes and what have you. I can accept that while accepting personal experiences and even abductions by organic, uh, alien or extraterrestrial life by applying my theory of um, parallel dimensions and interdimensional beings. So there could be,
Yeah, I mean, it could all be going on at once. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be
exactly,
just one thing, right? It
yeah,
could, all of this could be true, which is absurd, right?
right. But that's also exciting. It's way more interesting to me when something like this is not able to be disproved than when something is just purely empirically found to be false. Because in that openness, I can hope for so much. But when it's just
I mean, we all want Star Wars, right? We want life everywhere, right? I mean, that's
right,
what we want.
absolutely. I don't want us to be the only uh, advanced civilization in existence. That would be incredibly depressing on many levels. On many fucking levels. I'm not always proud of humanity. So it's
Right.
depressing on that. But it's also just lonely, right? Um, and I watch enough Star Trek where I want to bang an alien. Come on.
I want the food replicator.
Oh man.
You go bang your alien. I'm gonna get infinite spaghetti.
I mean, why not both? You got to
The
refuel,
spaghetti
right?
alien. Woo!
You got a carbo load.
It's-
But touching on the interdimensional being misidentified or misunderstood as like alien, like little gray man alien or whatever, it brings me back because this was really kind of my something that really made me start thinking about this was the Hellier documentary and being part of the Twitch watch party program and them opening up the entire Amazon catalog. I will be watching Hellier with the community. So anybody that has Amazon Prime, first you have Amazon Prime, you got Twitch Prime, and you can sub to your favorite Twitch streamer for free. That's the plug. Um, but you can join that watch party, and after we've watched it through the Hellier documentary, then I want to do a streamcast discussing, not necessarily discussing,
Synchronicities.
yeah, synchronicity, not necessarily discussing um, the documentary as a documentary, but discussing what they're investigating, what they're finding, and having our own takeaways, our own thoughts, and even our own research applied to those questions. So that'll be a little while down the line because there's 2 seasons of it out right now. And it would be sweet, and I follow these guys on Twitter. If Newkirk and them wanted to answer some questions or at least hang out, that'd be awesome. Just putting that out into the universe. Now we're going to be truthful on our opinions on all things, so don't expect us to pull punches on stuff. But we are respectful, and we appreciate everybody in the space, their efforts in finding answers and finding the truth. So that is upcoming, coming down the line. But back to aliens, UFOs and conspiracies and what have you. Wicked, I know you were planning on telling a particular story.
Yeah, I mean, I've had experiences. Like, it depends on, I can go with for this podcast, whatever. I'll go with my first experience with UFOs. I won't dive into the missing time episode because that that's a long story. But my first experience with an unidentified flying object, I'm not saying it was aliens. Okay, let's get that out of the way. As I was 9. I was at Boy Scout or Cub Scout camp in where I live. The camp was called Chief Logan. Very fitting. Still there to this day. Obviously, it's closed right now because of fucking whatever. But and prior to this experience, I had really no influence. Like, I hadn't been at home watching UFO, like Ancient Aliens on History Channel. I didn't have an uncle, or my dad wasn't in the military and told me all these crazy stories about spaceships and all this other crap. Like, it wasn't in my state of mind. Like, it wasn't on Josiah's brain. Let's say that. Okay. And as a 9-year-old boy sitting at Cub Scout camp making some stuff out of tongue depressors, right? I look up outside the shelter where I was at, and there was this huge silver orb, probably the size of, let's say, the Goodyear blimp. It's pretty big. If you've ever seen the Goodyear blimp in person, it's a lot bigger than you think it is when you don't see it in person. And I turned to my pack leader at the time and I asked them, "What is that?" And they turned around and they looked at it. They saw it too, right? And then all the other boys that were sitting at my table turned. We all saw it. And we're like, it's a balloon, right? That's what my brain went to. It's a big ass balloon. Well, then it shot off into the sky and disappeared, like instantly. Like it was here and then it just zoomed, gone. Balloons don't do that. Okay, they don't. That was my experience. And then we all talked about it. Our counselor was like, that was just. I think the way that he explained it was natural phenomenon, like AKA swamp gas. That's how he gave us the story, right? It was natural. It's just something that we don't understand in science yet, right? Which is okay explanation, by the way. But that was my first experience, and then after I had that experience, um, as a 9-year-old could in the 90s, right, or early 80s, late or early 90s, late 80s, is you could research because research now is nothing like it was then. Like you had to go to a library. You had to find the resource. You had to ask questions. You had to get boots on the ground. Information wasn't as readily available as it is now. Like now you can Google anything, right? Anything. But from that experience, I found other people had similar experiences in my research. So I would follow experiences of people seeing a similar type of object, behaving in a similar type of way, and I would read all these different stories and accounts, human accounts. Like some of these accounts are by super credible people, like police officers and military personnel and stuff, and you just think like, why would they put their reputation on the line to say this happened if it didn't happen? Again, I'm not saying it was alien. It could actually be under that umbrella of natural occurring events that we don't understand yet. It could have been some kind of electrical plasma ball. Who knows, right? I don't know. But I saw it. I know what I saw. I don't know what it was. That was my first experience.
That'd have been pretty intense at that age.
It was life changing. Let's be honest. You know how some people say in the paranormal field, like people that are skeptics about ghosts, so to speak,
Mhm.
until they see one, right?
Right.
Well, that was my experience when I saw a UFO. Like seeing is believing kind of thing. My daughter was talking about earlier, that kind of thing. Like,
Right.
maybe. But then when you see it, you're like, whoa, okay.
Absolutely. I like I've seen unidentified flying objects, but none of them made me think that was definitely an alien. I didn't have any, like, it's just been kind of like lights in the sky kind of stuff that could be so many things. So I'm a little, I wish I could have seen what some people have seen. I wish I could have seen what you've seen. I want to have those experiences. But unfortunately, I haven't. But I have seen footage of stuff, and there's some really interesting, compelling stuff out there. Um, Recently, the Pentagon releasing footage of a UFO that was super intriguing. Kind of felt like an act of misdirection over other things that are going on right now, but it's still a cool thing. Like never before we've been able to be like, hey, the Pentagon's saying basically, like a lot of people take it as the Pentagon saying that aliens are real, yo. Like that's cool. That's
Um,
fun.
yeah, about that. I don't think that has anything to do with misdirection, seeing as how that was actually released. I want to say like last year. So,
Well, it's
um,
popularization, I think, is misdirection right now. It being
for
pushed.
sure. Um, yeah, that listen, footage on its own i- is compelling, right? But we are in like the age of being able to manipulate uh video footage so well.
Hmm.
at this point. It's crazy. Uh, so the footage, generally speaking, is not enough, but this footage is obviously from the nose cam, I believe, I want to say of like an F-18,
The 18. Yep.
and it's the corroborated testimony of the parties involved. Uh, of what, they saw. And there's stuff that goes along with that footage too after it cuts out, because I don't believe that they show it, was what the pilot actually said was that that thing hit the deck, um, over the water, over the ocean, and two objects dropped out of the primary craft and into the water, and the water was a swirling, chaotic mass below um, this object. And then the object immediately accelerates to an insane speed, like straight vertical, and is just gone.
And
That's just
Um,
what another thing with this, the Rascals going into is it's just not the footage. Okay,
right.
it's the testimony of the pilots. It's the
yeah,
testimony of the government officials that were running the program that released these videos. Like it's so much deeper than just some shaky shit on a screen.
right. And
Spicy, tasty stuff right there.
yeah, and this is I always get nervous when the government wants to basically like crowdsource stuff. Be like, "Oh yeah, figure this out." And the
Right.
government does do that, by the way.
NASA
Um
does.
and I I wonder if they are like, this is not some sort of a new type of technology that a government has, another rival government. It's the Russians, sort of deal, or whatever. Yeah, I don't think so. And uh, I've always said, the ocean is a pretty big place. Lots of places to hide in the ocean, and any civilization probably capable or technology capable of crossing the stars can probably withstand the crushed depths of our ocean, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, and like I said, you go take a look at it, you could throw a mothership, and I'm not saying that this is what this is, but in this scale anyway, um, like, a mothership the size of Texas, you could hide in the ocean. It wouldn't even be that hard. I
Right.
think for an advanced civilization with that level of tech. Is that what it is? Don't know, but very interesting and would make a lot of sense. And there's this other thing that I wanted to bring up. Anyone that has gone on a nature hike or been in a national forest or preserve for an extended period of time, there is the motto of leave no trace, right? What you pack in, you pack out, right? Um, that's it. You leave stuff where it is, right? You don't do anything. Um, and taking that level and applying it to, research on like an entire planet or a species, that's kind of the I you would want a very hands off, make selections when you can and get away with it and stuff like that, you know, and do your studies, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Like and just
Yeah, that's something naturalists wrestle with when they want to observe an animal in its natural habitat. The very act of observing can change that
The
habitat,
environment.
change
Yep.
that, everything for that animal. So you have to be as invisible and hands off as you can be so you can truly observe it.
right. And it's also the first level of psychology too, is you observe patterns of behavior, you know. And then you can start delving, deeper, going all the way to, organic research, what is making this thing tick effectively. Um, and I would assume that any race that's capable of this is probably beyond the old scalpel method. You know what I'm saying? They
Mhm.
would have instruments capable of kind of, you know, doing a deep dive into an organism without having to harm it, or basically impose as little trauma as possible to whatever creature they're studying,
Right.
right?
Non-invasive methods.
Right. Um, so there's that. And it's also very interesting because, again, we're in a period of time where the matrix is once again oscillating pretty heavily, with everything that's going on here. And it's always in times of strife, right, and chaos, where a certain ecosystem, like take the Australian wildfires, for instance. um the first thing we always look at is like, oh god, how is this going to affect the ecosystem overall and the things that live in it? Like, how is this chaotic event changed things? We have to look at that. And I think this might be the same way. With everything that's going on, kind of the steady beat of war drums and things like that, uh, kind of coming out, is going to draw that would be something that would put a blip back on, you know, uh, the map,
Right.
right? And draw interest back to us. 'Cause remember, like I said, they might have just reached like saturation with us and we're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to study other stuff about this solar system or this area of space. And when something weird happens, we'll come back and we'll
Something
we'll
weird is
see what's up.
happening.
And it's like, oh wait, something fucking. Oh, what are they up to now? Oh, well, let's go back there real quick, you know, and see what's going to happen. And there's also the idea that, if it is a visiting civilization, or I'm just going to say visiting civilization, whether or not it's drones, AI, whatever, it doesn't matter. Um, could just be waiting until we kind of turn the corner, right? Um, you know, because any contact that they would make with us openly is very would utterly change whatever path we were on.
Yes,
It would
absolutely.
it would shift. Um, Even if it was a radio communication or something, some sort of energy based signal that was math based, that said, "Hey, we're here. Like, we're here, and we're just we're here and we're watching you. We are here and we are watching you." If we just got that little piece of data transmitted to us, and I'm not talking about like it's a text message or whatever, it'd be mathematic in origin, you know, just that, knowing that they chose to communicate, or what fashion they chose to communicate in, etc., is completely would alter, um whatever path we were on. It would have to. It would have to.
Right.
And again, it goes back to that leave no trace philosophy. So you got to be careful about, you know, um, putting your foot in the crime scene, so to speak.
Right.
Uh, you're always bringing something with you, and you have to be mindful whether or not you're stepping on, stepping, leaving a footprint, you know,
Right.
just is you've changed like the area once you've done that, just walking there.
Like
So
building a pyramid.
Oh, I don't.
I'm just
I don't.
saying.
I know. I don't. You're no. That's man-made. I don't. I am not one of those. The alien. It's not alien inspired. I'm not one of those. You know. It. They had assistance like that. No. But anyway. Yeah. You have to be very careful. Like, and effectively, if they're buzzing around our skies or in our neighborhood, and this footage that's come out turns out to be them, already you've you know you've left that footprint. So how much further you want to go, right?
Somebody's getting fired in Alien World.
Yeah, right.
Pop.
Yeah, and the other thing is humans also, again, it all depends on how long they've been here. And humans have been the same for a really, really long time, right? Uh Physiologically speaking, and so the more how do I word this? The more primitive the species is, I think the less mental trauma would be, the less unaware you kind of are, right? Um and that would be the time if you were going to want to do like actual physical contact and stuff like that for study and like sedation and et cetera, that would be it. The other thing that we have to entertain is, if this civilization has been around for, been in our neighborhood for a while, it is not out of the realm of possibility that they themselves have advanced with time as well
Right.
and refined methods, et cetera, and the mission has maybe changed. You know, um, that's another possibility. And it could be of like, okay, well, we've got all the data we want on these guys. Well, continue to monitor it and go hands off.
Right.
Okay, we'll just hang out then.
They're watching our reality TV. That's why they're here.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it's funny. We sit here and we talk about how they're interested or whatever, and it really wouldn't surprise me if it's that simple.
Yeah, they came here because we made fucking Hot Pockets, and Hot Pockets are delicious.
That's the resource they want from Earth.
Our delicious hot pockets.
Our delicious hot pockets. Not a sponsor.
I don't think that. Yeah, that's one thing I always wonder about. Also, like if it is an organic based life form, what does it eat? You know, I always wonder about that.
I just want to
'Cause,
try space food. Let's be honest.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, that's the problem. Is I I'm fairly certain that any civilization that's reached that tech level is culinarily speaking probably pretty boring, and they don't really care. They more care about like the nutritional value and the sustainment of like maximum efficiency and processing, like to sustain the organic parts and stuff
Right.
like that. So I doubt they're sitting there making delicious bananas Foster for
They came here
breakfast.
to go to Flavor Town.
Yeah, yeah, right, yeah. Our Lord and Savior, Guy Fieri. Um, yeah, but hey, maybe that's what it is. Maybe we are just like a reoccurring like planet on on like an intergalactic episode of Diners, Drive-ins and Dives. You know, what are they cooking now?
You gotta
Ugh,
check out.
bananas, those are poisonous.
You gotta check out this backwilder planet where they make the best chili dogs.
Yeah. These guys, no, they'll eat anything, man. I mean, anything. It's could you imagine? Yeah,
Oh, that would be
that'd be kind of weird.
amazing.
Well, you imagine if you got to a certain kind of tech level That would be weird, wouldn't it?
There's a
Yeah.
movie arc there. We should be
Right.
writing this shit down.
Yeah. No, wouldn't that be weird though? Wouldn't that
Yeah.
really be weird?
Absolutely.
Came here for the spice.
I mean, just thinking about it, how interesting alone would that be? All the different foods that we consume just because we like them. Like, how does that register on some super advanced civilization? Like, I don't get it. What are they doing? Why don't they just do this?
Right.
They're not even maximizing their amino compounds.
Do you lift, bro?
Right.
Of all the reasons they could call us plebs, it's the food that really ticks them off.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, their food, like I said, would probably be pretty boring. Maybe it's not boring. Maybe it's whatever the hell they want it to be. Who knows? Probably reached that tech level too.
Maybe they just like inject flavors into like a nutrient
that's what I'm
tablet.
saying. Yeah, that's it. Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, hey, I want pasta flavored paste. Who knows?
Or it could be
Right.
something fucked up like we're the only place in the universe that's discovered wine or some shit like that, right? They're like, humans are like, oh, and they're like, no, we're just here for the wine, guys.
Hey,
Thanks.
look at these idiots. They poison themselves to get stupid.
Really? Like, yeah.
And then we cause the downfall of their civilization because they try it and get like super alcoholic. Like,
Right.
What is this marijuana's? It's the gateway drug to the
again,
universe.
Elon Musk might be an alien.
Like I said, it's for this reason when you think about it, like an alien, like we've got to be very interesting to them and it could be a myriad of reasons because we are so entertained. Come on, we've all been to Walmart, okay? And we've all been people watching at Walmart, and we are entertained, by the people of Walmart alone. We entertain ourselves. Could you imagine? Other cultures are entertaining to us as well, like, and very foreign and kind of alien. And it's like you could imagine being like an intelligent life form from another like galaxy or solar system or far away, like coming here and seeing the stuff that we would do would be like, whoa, like, whoa, there is so much I need to know about what they're doing and why. Like, what are they doing? They're like setting off nuclear bombs for no reason. Like, I mean, literally.
Hey, pay attention. I
Literally.
just said,
Like-
hold my beer.
They spent 80 years building an airplane only just to jump out of it for fun.
Right.
Yeah, they're jumping out of a perfectly good craft. It's not even crashing. Yeah, just all sorts of stuff, in general. But Exargan, do you have that other footage that I sent you?
I do.
Yeah. This is
Go ahead.
just
and
I
set it up.
I've sent this to you, right?
The drone footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass the ad. This is coming from the Spider-Man prop. Yep.
Yeah. This is some very interesting footage, and there's another channel if you guys go and kind of follow the rabbit hole on this footage. I'll kind of narrate what's going on here. So what this is I understood it when I looked into this. I could be misremembering, so please forgive me if you find something else different if you guys look at this. What this is you're kind of wondering, like, why are these guys flying a drone out here? This seems suspect. Well, not really. What these guys are doing is basically getting B-roll footage of landscape shots. And there are companies that do this, that collect this B-roll, go out to these places, that collect B-roll, landscape shots, cityscape shots, skyline shots, all this stuff, right?
Right.
And so it saves companies that want to produce ads or commercials some money from going out themselves and having to film this stuff, right? So they call a company up like this that has this footage on deck and goes, listen, I need some wide sweeping landscape shots, and what do you got, or whatever of low green mountains or snow-capped mountains, whatever it is. And the company go, okay, well, let me see what I've got. So they go out, they collect this footage, they mark it down, give a description of it. They search through their files. They go, okay, well, this is what we got. What do you think? And then they sell it or they'll rent it out to a production company or whatever. So that's the basis for them. And there's another channel that's gone on and done a super deep dive into this video. Now, what's interesting about a lot of edited and manipulated videos is when you see an object come into the foreground, right? From a distance, the human eye can only perceive, distance so far. You can only see so far, right?
Yep.
So a lot of the time when you digitally edit something, you can get away with starting that object fairly close in the background, right? As it moves towards the foreground, and then you can start to perceive it. Okay.
Yep.
And so when that happens, you can usually see like the image like blip in when it's been digitally added in. Okay. And the reason, as I understood how they found this footage, was if you watch that footage in real time, it's just it's gone. What is that? Right? It's just gone. It's that fast. And, you could mistake that for a bug buzzing by or perhaps maybe a bird or something of that nature. So if you're a videographer and you were like, "Oh, my footage is ruined." Like there's that little flash in there, like makes that that frame or those frames kind of useless. So you'd have to either clip those out for the company that wanted to use them or whatever. Now, there's another channel that does a deep dive of when that object that passes by the drone actually comes into frame. And it comes into frame allegedly um a lot sooner than you think. In fact, that object in that shot has been you can see it if you were to zoom in and really go and look for it. The interesting thing is that thing basically comes out of the cloud bank way back, dips down into the mountain valleys, then reappears like on another horizon through another set of mountains, and then slowly arcs forward towards the open plains, towards the camera itself, and then is just gone. Um, it's very interesting footage, very interesting, and you would kind of think to yourself, well, how did they not know? How did they not know, and how did they not see it? Well, number one, you only saw that for a second on camera, and if you look at the deep dive video on this, you'll see that it was there for quite a while. Just it's moving that incredibly fast. The other thing is if you go back to the drone footage from the nose camera that was released by the Pentagon, um, that thing doesn't have an exhaust signature. That thing's not making noise per se at all. It's utterly quiet. There's no, it's not an SR-71 where if it goes that low, you're going to know about it. It's utterly silent and moving at an incredible rate of speed to where, like, not even a blink and you might miss it, let alone all the other, organic and natural distractions, of being outside and looking around like, "Ah," people don't pay attention a lot of the time. You know, ask yourself, how often do you really look up? Uh, we tend to look down more than anything, especially with the advent of technology and phones. So there you go. But a guy was able to break it down, the distance and everything, to a really, really accurate degree because that is an actual pingable location that you can see on a map where they are actually at. So very interesting stuff. Very interesting video.
That's crazy. Like, I was trying to pinpoint it as you were talking, like figure when it comes into frame, but without being able to zoom.
You can't.
Do.
You can't. You've got to go. A guy does like a 20-minute deep dive video on it. And the most interesting thing about this footage is the only thing that anyone has been able to prove is that it's not a bug.
Right.
That's it. Whether or not it's digitally manipulated is another story. Don't know. If it is, that is some very big brain thinking about that is like amazing after effects. Someone is really, really there.
Right.
You know,
That's awesome.
Yeah. And when they zoom in on it, you can actually see it poof out of the cloud bank, poof, and then sweep down. It's really cool stuff.
Absolutely. Alien or not, who's to say? But definitely unidentified flying object.
Right. That's the big thing. Is it man? And anything that's moving that quick is. I don't think that. I don't think we've got that. And if we do, it's something that we definitely found. We didn't just think that up out of the ether. If we were capable of replicating that kind of propulsion, it's the world should look like a very different place.
Right. Man, very compelling stuff. I had not heard about this one until you brought it to my attention, and I'm really glad I got to see that footage.
Yeah, it's interesting, very, very interesting stuff, and it's got a very interesting shape to it as well. Very not the traditional um flying saucer disc shape. Although
Right.
Bob Lazar does say that there were several different variations of these craft. Um, and again, that would actually make sense, right? Because if they are self-replicating and modifying, they're going to modify themselves for the mission.
Right.
So, is this thing like a rapid scanning system for drone for topography, or whatever? That could be what it could be any number of things, but the different shapes can signify being more efficient or having a certain function, you know, um, which is really, really interesting. It could be optimized for for low atmospheric travel.
Right.
What what who knows?
Exarch, and some brain food for you after the stream. Look up Bob Lazar's blackmail box and read about how significant this area was and what he did and things that he was able to prove to other people, not just one person, not hearsay. Like, read up on the, because in mainstream media they don't talk about the black mailbox, so this is kind of like under the sheet kind of stuff, like behind the scenes kind of stuff. Read about the black mailbox and read about some of the things that happened and some of the things that he was able to produce for people, and it will open your mind a bit.
Nice. I have it set up in my Google here. We'll check that out.
And the other thing that going back to it being drone technology or AI driven and stuff like that, uh machines malfunction, and it could always be that's always a risk that happens, right? And it could be that any craft that we have potentially recovered is, you know, it was just malfunctioning when it crashed, or if it was shot down, or what have you. Um, that's a fairly easy explanation for it. You
Right.
know, um, machines just malfunction, man. That's it. Uh, and again, if your alien spacecraft crashes, what do you do about it? What do you do about it?
As far as how
Because
you
to
clean it
recover
up.
it, yeah, well, yeah, potentially, if no one's around, sure, if you crash in the middle of the Siberian wilderness or something, you know, where there's no one around, you can get there without anyone seeing you, but you also, again, risk violating that rule of creating a bigger footprint and presence when you go
Yeah.
down to recover the thing that you drop, you know? Say, you drop your compass off a cliff in the Grand Canyon. What are you going to do? Go down there and get it?
Right.
No. Because you are going to cause more disruption by probably traversing all the way down to get your damn compass and then get back out. And the resources that you will consume to get the compass isn't worth it. It's like, leave it. You know,
Right.
that sort of deal.
Intriguing stuff. A lot to process, and there's so much more that can be talked about in this very broad subject matter that we're touching on today. I think we'll definitely be revisiting a lot of this. Did either of you have any other things you wanted to bring up or stories you wanted to bring up?
No, I don't have any personal stories with, you know, unidentified, you know, flying objects. Not that I can't, none that I can go, look up in the sky and, see a light or a jet. I lived out in the desert for a while and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, it's a jet. You know, like I don't know what kind of jet it was,
Right.
but um, nothing out of the normal. It's just overall from the scientific basis of space travel and colonization just really intrigues me because I think that we probably got to get off this ball of dirt. Um, and get our stuff together.
Our future is
Is
up. 100%.
Yeah, we have to get out of here. We've got to go to the stars. And this narrative of we've got to fix stuff at home or on our planet first. I think that is a dying narrative at this point, and I think that the better bet is to, we talk about the energy crisis and stuff like that. Well, believe me, if we can get to that asteroid belt, which is at the spatial level right next door,
Right.
we solve a lot of those problems, you know,
Yeah.
and that's just that's really my overall take on it personally, and
Well,
that's why it's so fascinating to me.
well, I don't think that we should, give up on repairing the damage we've done to the planet and putting the planet in a better place. I think we're best able to do that by moving on, by leaving. Like, if we look to the
We
stars and we start putting ourselves out there rather than continuing to overpopulate and destroy where we are, that'll in
Right.
turn save where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the mission and focus needs to shift more to this, and more people need to get on board with the idea of it as well. Because there's not that many people doing this.
Yep.
Just spoiler alert. Um, it's Mars is about to be renamed Planet Tesla.
Right.
Anyway, uh, more resources I think need to be dedicated to spacefaring research and things like that and technology. Uh, and while a lot of money is being thrown at it now, only fairly recently in the past 10 years, we're starting to see a ramp up and people start to take this a lot more seriously uh, overall. And again, I think you are right that doing this and this again, um, war drives innovation, right? By the nature of war and that piece of military industrial complex, right?
Mm.
Conflict uh, drives innovation, does. Okay. Unfortunately, while that can be a positive byproduct, what you generally get out of that is stuff to better kill each other with. Whereas if
Right.
you shift the focus and the drive to a very large goal and how to solve these problems, because war is a problem that needs to be solved. So many minds have to look at it and have to dedicate a lot of time and energy to winning a war,
Right.
right? Well, if you apply that logic to space travel, it is a war. It's a problem. There are a lot of things that need to be solved, such as exposure to radiation in space travel and how do we stop that? All
Right.
that good stuff. Stabilizing food, terraforming, all this stuff. Like it needs to be attacked
Yeah.
is what needs these problems need to be attacked for us to succeed.
So necessity is the mother of innovation and
Invention.
Right.
invention. And I think as a global society, if we start to understand the necessity of moving on beyond our planetary limitations,
Yeah.
then that is where we'll really make strides. If we rely on war being our uh, motivation, then we're not going to
Yeah.
move beyond that. We
No.
have we have
And
to, yeah,
that's where we're stuck right now, is in that kind of war mode.
yeah,
And the problem, necessity is the mother of invention, and generally speaking, a lot of the time it is not until civilization or the group is in peril that you start getting real creative with how to survive.
right,
And I fear that these problems that we are facing are not being taken seriously enough right now.
yep,
And I don't want these decisions and these problems to have to be solved
On the
when it's
fly.
when it's full blown crisis.
yeah,
Get it done now, people. Get it done now.
Yeah, there's a lot of books on like the Earth having like an outside enemy is what we need. Like, because we're always like, okay, we don't get on the discussion of religion, but in human history, it's always kind of been about my God's better than your God, right? That's kind of been the MO for us for like, the last 10,000 years. So what if we had an outside source causing a problem for us? Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter what you believe, this thing's coming to Earth, and, kind of like the asteroid thing, like this is coming to Earth to destroy Earth. Like, either we all get on the same fucking page or we perish, right? Something along that lines.
but the problem is there's already big dangerous things like that, and we're ignoring them as a culture, as a society.
We are
Definitely a problem.
we are relying on pure blind luck. Like seriously, with a lot of these potential threats that are just flying through space, we
Yep.
are relying on literally nothing but a hope and a prayer that something like the trajectories don't line up and intersect. That's what that is literally that's our plan right now, and that's
Yep.
not a plan at
No,
all.
it is not.
Nothing. So that's the way it is. Hell, I think a big brain play from an intelligent spacefaring people would just be to create some proto, typical attack bot or life form and send them to invade us because we'd all get on the same page real quick. Kind of like, yeah, just let them win. Just let them win. Like, make it hard, but let them win.
Get hurt a little, but let them win, right?
Kind of like,
It depresses me that that's what people need right now to get in fucking gear. Like, that really upsets me. But even then, like, the true, like, the dangers that are already right on our fucking doorstep, people are ignoring. They're spinning it, or they're just, it doesn't agree with their politics or with their money, so they just are willingly just willfully ignorant, or actively spreading disinformation so that we don't deal with it. The reliance on fossil fuels is ridiculous. It's mind blowing to me.
Well,
go ahead.
Ignoring those is one thing, right? Because as long as people can sit there and eat McDonald's and steak dinner, they're going to be just fine. They're going to continue to ignore it, right? And the people at the tippy top that control the vast amount of resources and cash flow are always going to live in, like, whatever the pinnacle lap of luxury is. They gonna be all right. It's one of those things. It would be pretty hard to ignore an alien invasionary force. Although I'm sure that some people would say that it's fake.
100%, they would.
I mean, but at that point, those people don't matter.
Right. They'll be the pain they cause, right?
Yeah, facing an actual external threat is a completely different matter of, oh wow, okay, we're being invaded. All right then. Versus denying ecological collapses and things like that. Which, again, as long as people can sit in their ivory towers, they're going to continue to do it.
So depressing. It's so depressing.
But again, to kind of try and wrap it up on a positive note here, there is hope. There is hope, and we are making progress, and I think that there is an awakening that is happening. It's Sleeping Giant 2.0. People are waking up to this fact with the dissemination of information and technologies. People are coming around to this idea very, very quickly that it is a real possibility in our lifetimes we will step foot almost certainly on an alien planet.
Yeah.
One we know, and that's very close, but we'll do it. We will do it. We may even see our, who knows, the first germination of a seed on an alien planet. That's and that's good. That is good that people are working on this, and thank God they seem to be pretty smart. Now, if we can just hold it together for these people to finish their work, that's another matter.
Right.
And all this stupid basically, this is the main storyline. We getting off the planet is the main storyline, and we're treating it as a side quest. Well, we've got all the side quests that we're going off and treating as the main storyline, which we shouldn't be doing.
Right.
But again, I think that ideas are shifting. More people are becoming involved. More money is being thrown at this, which is unfortunately always a factor.
Big money.
Yeah, but progress is being made, and I think that sadly, the big thing is I think that they want Planet Viacom somewhere.
Virgin Mobile Mars
Planet
Edition.
Virgin Mobile.
Everybody watching, learn from Total Recall. Don't let the corporations be our overlords. There's my tinfoil hat for you guys. The class war.
Oh, yeah.
That's a subject for another stream.
kind of go with the Conan ending there. But that is a tale for another day.
Yep, exactly. But I think we talked about a lot of cool shit today. We got through a lot of cool information, a lot of compelling stuff, a lot of cool theories. So I think that'll be it for today. Unless you guys have anything else to add.
No,
No,
that's it.
nope, that's it for me today.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for watching. Feel free to join the Discord. You got the socials there. Keep in touch between streams and between streamcasts. If you have a suggestion for next week's topic or a topic anytime, please let me know. That way I can, make sure I have good content coming for you guys. And again, Twitch watch party, we're going to be watching Hellier. I'm not sure when yet. We're figuring that out. But after we're done watching the Hellier series, I'll be doing a streamcast on the subject matter explored. You guys have any plugs?
Nope.
Nope, not particularly.
All right. Well, that'll be it for this week. Next streamcast will likely be next week on Monday as well. And of course, regular scheduled streams throughout the week. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Have a good one.